Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a guide around defense, survivability, and managing enemy aggression. I'm going to break this down into 4 different sections, which is going to be defensive basics, counterattacks, other gear that you can use for defense and enemy aggression, and how to use offense as a good defense. Let's get into it. First up, blocking. By holding L1, you can block all enemies' standard attacks. Blue and red glint attacks have to be dodged or countered. You can't block those. Additionally, you can block arrows as part of the standard defense. On your charm, you do have the option of equipping bullet defense, which also allows you to block bullets. The next basic defensive maneuver is the standard dodge. But with a single press of circle, you can do this quick dash, which allows you to avoid the vast majority of attacks from all enemies in this game. It's also really useful for creating or closing space, which we'll dive into a little deeper further in this video. Dodging also is great for setting up counterattacks, which you can use to gain the edge on the battlefield. By double tapping circle, you can roll, which allows you to create even greater distance than the regular dodge. You can roll twice before they kick in the roll penalty, which gives you this little clunky, goofy roll, which no one in the world knows why they included it in this game, but it is what it is. There's about a 4 to 5 second cooldown after doing this clunky roll before the reset to the standard. Rolling allows for greater distance to avoid a wider range of enemy attacks and also lets you easier set up more convenient or powerful counterattacks. Rolling it directly into a spirit attack is a great defensive maneuver because of the distance that you create, plus the iframes that you get from executing any spirit move. This is something I frequently do when I'm in a horde of enemies to create space and allow myself a few seconds to gauge what's going on around me. The last basic defensive move is the standard parry. You do this by tapping L1 while an enemy is attacking you. This is different from a block in that it actually adds damage to an enemy's stagger bar. You can build into this further with samurai bracers and the samurai perk, which allow for significantly more damage to the bar when parrying. Parrying can also knock enemies off balance, creating an opening for counterattacks. Certain weapons have parry properties built right into them. The vigilant dual katanas and the legendaries allow you to automatically parry any spear enemy by using your triangle heavy attack while they're swinging at you. These are an excellent defensive option because you will either hit them or parry their incoming attack, building stagger damage and creating counter openings. The vigilant and legendary Yari will automatically knock sickle enemies off balance when you parry them. Sucker Punch low-key changed this, because it originally was heavy attacks would auto-parry sickle enemies, just like the dual katanas do with spears, but it never worked as intended. Around the 1.6 patch, this was changed, but it wasn't included in any of the patch notes. Anyway, this is useful because those sickle combos are quick and can be tricky to parry. You only have to parry one move to disrupt the entire combo and get an opening for a counter. Do not sleep on the value of these basic defensive moves. Blocking, dodging, rolling, and the regular parry are all low risk and they don't require any valuable build properties. They keep you alive, all while setting up opportunities to go on the offensive. If you can master these basics, you really don't need any of the more advanced defensive maneuvers. They aren't flashy, but they keep you alive, keep you in control of the space, and are of utmost importance. Counterattacks take the basic defensive moves a step further. A perfect parry occurs when you tap L1 just before an enemy's attack is about to hit you. When done correctly, you will parry their attack and be given a free counter by hitting square or triangle. The window to do this in this game is very tight. However, if you miss the window, you will still perform the standard parry as long as you hit L1 before their attack connects. You can increase the window for perfect parries by adding perfect parry window into your build. Perfect parry window is an option on every single gear piece, so you can add it up to 7 times depending on your comfort level. Missing the perfect parry is not necessarily a bad thing because you will still perform a standard parry. You can further increase the perfect parry effectiveness by adding perfect counter damage into your build. This will make the attack performed from the perfect parry more powerful. Perfect counter damage is an option on all melee weapons as well as some of the other gear. With certain gear selections, you can add it also up to 7 times in your build. To take perfect parries a step further, you can equip the risky parry charm. When using risky parry, it turns the 1-hit counter attack from a perfect parry into a 3-hit counter attack. You do, however, lose the safety net of regular parries, so if you miss the perfect parry, you will get hit. If you're running this, I highly recommend that you're either very good at perfect parry timing or run several perfect parry windows in your build. In addition to perfect parries, there is also a perfect dodge. Dodging an attack right before it lands also allows for a counter strike. There is no stat to boost the window for this, but perfect counter damage does make the counter strike more powerful. The next counter attack is the bulwark counter. If you've been following my videos, we discussed this in The Way of the Samurai Part 2. The bulwark counter allows you to counter virtually every attack in the game by lining up the blue glint from the bulwark stance. Make sure you're never releasing triangle. If you miss the glint, then you remain blocking so you can still defend against all non-glint attacks. If you have expert combo equipped on your Odachi, you can take the bulwark counter further by immediately following up with the 2-hit expert combo simply by pushing triangle immediately after the bulwark counter. This turns a single hit bulwark counter into a 3-hit counter attack. You can build into the bulwark counter by increasing the counter window on the Odachi only. Note, if you're doing this on the legendary Odachi, then the counter window percentage is larger than any of the epics. You can also do increased damage from the bulwark counter strike by selecting the vigilant Odachi or having the legendary equipped. This increased damage does not apply to the expert combo follow-up. Perfect counter damage in your build also applies to the main bulwark counter strike, but won't apply to the expert combo. Perfect parries, perfect counters, and the Odachi counter are all higher risk defensive measures, but come with a higher reward. They not only give you a free counter strike that can do devastating damage depending on your build, but they also put you in great position for further counter attacks and to go on the offensive. Risky parry extends both that risk and reward. While these moves are all great, I recommend focusing first on getting great with the basics. They are safer and are the foundation of these more advanced techniques. In addition to your standard defense and counterattacks, you can utilize your ghost tools for increased survivability and to effectively manage enemy aggression. The Tenzutsu is great for this. By shooting an enemy mid-attack, you'll perform a pistol parry. This knocks enemies down and leaves them in an extended staggered state. This pairs really well with the restoring or legendary Odachi, as these are free execution strikes that heal you. The heal you get here is significant, just under half your health bar, and doesn't require any spirit. The pistol parry is an amazing strategy for stopping enemy attacks and provides one of the best healing sources possible. The legendary Tenzutsu also gives you at least 5 shots, so you can do this more often. The Metsubushi is another great tool, especially when equipped with poison. First, the Metsubushi can affect multiple enemies at once. When you hit an enemy with poison and you break their stagger bar, then they'll also drop down in an extended staggered state. This also sets up Odachi heals with the restoring or legendary Odachi. Another important note, when an enemy is actively poisoned, they become vulnerable to all melee weapons, meaning all weapons will be effective in staggering. If you are running one of my builds or Hachiman Zeal period, this means all weapons will get the Zeal buff to a poisoned enemy. This makes poison staggering extremely easy, which in turn makes healing very easy. Poisoning a group of enemies, then following up with the Kusarigama sweep will de-aggro several enemies at once and give you several heal opportunities at the same time. Another important note about the restoring and legendary Odachi. When you break an enemy's stagger bar with the Odachi spirit move, this will also drop enemies down for that extended staggered state, allowing yet another method of getting the Odachi heal. If you have the legendary Odachi equipped, this is a double heal, as you'll heal off the spirit move itself, and then get another heal off the execution strike. Another useful tool is the Tanegashima. Headshots against most enemies will briefly stagger them, allowing yet another way to heal with the Odachi. Headshots that also break the stagger bar will keep them staggered for a longer period, making those heals a little easier. Another amazing tool for defense is the legendary or sweeping Yari. The sweep attack allows you to cancel out any enemy's attack. This includes all glint attacks and even the blast from those Bohea. The sweep attack also allows you to knock down most enemies, regardless of weapon alignment, so this can help tremendously in keeping control of your space. Many say the key to a good defense is a strong offense. I agree 100%. While we've discussed a lot about how to defend and manage enemy aggression, one of the best ways is to put so much pressure on them that they have minimal chances to attack you at all. Any form of martial arts is about having control of the space within an engagement. In many cases, you're immediately at a disadvantage if you're on the back foot, so I try to keep the forward momentum as much as I possibly can. The more you're looking to attack enemies, the less they're able to attack you. You have to be extremely careful, however, with this and not lose sight of what's going on around you. As you're attacking, pay very close attention. Usually there are 1 or 2 enemies that are looking to move in on you. I'll often switch targets even before eliminating one to stop their advancement before it starts. This is another reason staggering is so effective. Even though it's brief, it will keep a target still while you either go in for the kill or switch to a different target. If you feel you're losing control of the space, the Kusarigama with Raging Flame focus attack is an excellent way to reset and create room. Most samurais you see out there will spam this, but there's actually great use in honing in on one enemy with Raging Flame activated. This will funnel that damage into a single target, and you'll still knock surrounding enemies back while you're attacking. Taking out those high threat targets is crucial to keeping control of the battle. This has also been a recurring theme in my videos, but another great way to reclaim your space is the legendary katana. Combining the blowback from the katana spirit move with the flame Kusarigama will give you all the space you need and take out many of the smaller enemies. The 2 builds I've shared up to this point perfectly play into everything we've reviewed today. My Weapon Master high damage stagger build that was reviewed in Way of the Samurai Part 1 is still by far my favorite build to use, as I find it the most effective in the effort of using offense for defense. If you can master the defensive basics, you do not need the fancy counter attacks, as if you're successful, you shouldn't have to counter much at all anyway. If, however, you're not finding success with an offensive first approach, then the parry stagger hybrid is an amazing setup that still gives you great offensive output, but makes defending much easier and more deadly due to the parry window and counter damage properties. I hope today's video was helpful. In summary, control your space at all costs and use offense to minimize how often you need to defend enemy attacks. When you need to defend, focus first on improving your basic maneuvers, blocking, dodging, rolling, and the regular parry. When you're comfortable there, practice the higher risk defensive strategies with perfect parries, dodges, and the Odachi counter. When you can be efficient at all of these things, then you will be unstoppable. Thank you so much for watching and for your continued support, and I'll see y'all in the next one.